I am Slick Nick, the living legend of hair loss, your personal hairline hero, and of course, now known across the world as the red pill pusher of hair loss. I teach people to embrace their hair loss, to imagine that in reality, you're being judged every minute of every day by every person in the universe from 10 other things beyond hair loss. Hair loss is not in the top 10. So focus on the top 10. Focus on the part you can control. Think like a man, not like a boy. If you want to learn what those 10 things are, you simply check out the video. I'll put it right there in the description. I made it very easy for you. Just like your mother baked you cookies in the oven and said, here you go, son. I've done the same exact thing, except I'm your father, your internet father. Let's get to work. Oh yeah, so this is gonna be fun. We're gonna talk more about my test that I invented to accurately predict if you're going to go bald by age 35. Now, I want to be very clear. I invented this. No one, you will not find proof of this before me. As you search the internet, the only evidence you'll have of this theory is from me. The only track record is from me. Nick Shell invented it over the years of doing these channels to feed your obsession with hair loss. I'm just exploiting your obsession. But again, 3% of you are going to be able to become like me and take the red pill and realize that you're not being judged on your hair. Instead, why wouldn't you focus on that? Look, there's one thing that you're insecure about. There's 10 huge things that totally matter. And instead of investing on those things that you have control over, you're investing in this thing that no one's really even paying attention to. They're looking at the 10 things. Okay, so that's your choice though. You're choosing to remain blue pill instead of red pill. Just to be very clear about that. All right, let's check out this comment that I received on my whole theory here. Recently I made a video called Balding IQ Test number 2. Are you smart enough to accept So basically what I just said. The whole point of the video, there's some irony here. The whole point of the video is I'm saying, hey, are you smart enough to recognize that you're being judged on 10 things that aren't about hair? And instead I got this, I got this comment from Dmitry Loktunov. Quote, Nick, I think those 5 questions, so specifically, so instead of talking about the 10 things, he goes back to the original Balding IQ test, which is number 1, where, again, the 5-question method. You ask all 5 questions, best out of 5 determines whether you go bald by 35 or not. So he says, Nick, I think those 5 questions that you created are not that accurate, and that's just opinion. You can't really predict it based on your beard and 1-year-old photos. Maybe it will work on someone, but there are just so many people that have a full beard, hairy body, and nor would one for the rest of their lives. It's all about genes. The only thing you can do is predict hair loss is a DNA test. It's probably the most accurate, but still doesn't give you the whole picture. I think hair loss is not predictable at all. To which I responded, you are ignoring some of the 5 questions in your response. So people have a habit of doing that. They'll hear the 5 things and they'll only answer some of them and focus on those, even though I've clearly said it's best out of 5, all 5. Don't ignore one because you don't feel like looking at the answer. All 5, best of 5. Okay, so already he's ignored some of those in his response, and if you know my theory, then you've already know which ones he's ignored. So he goes on to leave me more of a comment and try to talk about all of this. He says, no hate, Nick, I just wanted to write my comment after studying the topic of baldness. And he's trying to negate my theory without actually really focusing on 5. So I did say, I agree my 5-question system is not true 100% of the time. I'll make a video response. Ultimately, I did, in the comment, I said, look, I invented a cheaper way to find out if you'll go bald other than taking a DNA test. So just for the record, I want to be very clear. You can take a DNA test and it's going to tell you if you have the balding gene. Funny thing is my mom took that test and it showed that she is a carrier of the male pattern baldness gene, even though she's a female, because the mother can pass it on to their son. Okay, but just because she had the gene doesn't mean that I got it. So that's when I found out that you can take a DNA test and find out if you personally have the balding gene, the male pattern baldness gene. So, hey, if you want to spend that money and do that, that's on you. Anytime you're investing money to try to figure this out, that's on you. You spend time, energy, money on things you value. I don't value hair loss, so I'm not spending money on it. I'm spending time on it, but I'm making money off of that time. So that's the reason I'm willing to make all these videos. So if you want to spend the money to find out if you're going to go bald, go for it. Personally, I've taken a DNA test, just not the one that talks about male pattern baldness gene, and I'm very happy I did. But it was 100% unrelated to hair loss. I just thought it was fascinating to learn so many things about my ancestors that I wouldn't have known, or confirm things that I did know. So it was interesting how accurate it was, as far as based on what I had already known. So if you really want to know if you're going to go bald, okay, yeah, trust science, DNA test, go for it. However, if you care more about managing money than you do about your hair, then you won't spend the money. You'll just ask yourself the 5 questions, get the best out of 5, and that's going to tell you if you're going to go bald or not. Now, is it 100%? No, because I've been very clear to use the word test and theory when I talk about it. So not many things in life are 100%. But ultimately, if most of the time my theory is accurate, and it's free, and it takes about 2 minutes to do, why wouldn't you do that? If you really care about knowing if you're gonna go bald or not, why wouldn't you just do that? That's a lot easier and quicker. It's not as scientifically reliable as the DNA test, but it's funny how hard it is for people to take my test, which is adding to the irony when people leave comments that just point out how obviously weird it is that they would leave that comment in that video. Okay, so I named it that way for a reason. I say balding IQ test. Okay, because my point is I'm making it very easy for people to know if they're going to go bald, and I'm making it very easy to give you a different way to live where you don't worry about your hair loss. You focus on becoming a better human being so that you become attractive specifically as a male. So it's very simple. But what happens is people are so obsessed with hair loss, they don't want truth. They don't want actual help. They want to hear what they want to hear. So that's why it's so difficult for people to answer their own question if they're going to go bald or not. That's why it's so difficult. So ultimately, there you go. I make it simple. I even made the video IQ test, balding IQ test. What I'm finding is most people are failing my balding IQ test. They simply can't accept you ask 5 questions and you get the best out of 5, and that will most likely determine if you're going to go bald or not. And they also cannot accept that they're not even being judged by that anyway. So going back to what I've said before, 97% of you are blue pill people. Only 3% of you can I actually help. I recognize that. That's why I exploit your obsession. I make $500 a month off of your time wasted on watching my videos when you're not ever going to become a red pill person to begin with. But you can choose the red pill. You can become like me. But the odds are not in your favor. Funny thing is though, you are in control of that, not me.